Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarks on a three-nation visit to Cyprus, Canada and Croatia today to attend G7 summit in Canada's Kailash in his sixth consecutive participation. Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau probes the Ahmedabad plane crash incident. Black box is being examined while search on for cockpit voice recorder. DNA tests confirm identities of 19 victims. Another night of Israel-Iran exchange of missiles. Tehran's Shahran oil depot and Tel Aviv's Haifa oil refinery targeted in attacks. US-Iran nuclear talks set for today in Oman cancelled. Manhunt underway in Minnesota after senior Democrat lawmaker and his spouse were shot and killed. Second state lawmaker and his wife seriously wounded. President Trump condemns shooting as absolutely terrible. No kings. Protesters take to the streets from Los Angeles to Boston. Nearly 2,000 demonstrations planned across the country, coinciding with Trump's huge military parade. Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarked on a three-nation visit today. During the five-day visit, Prime Minister Modi will be visiting Cyprus, Canada and Croatia to attend various programs, including bilateral meetings and multilateral engagements. It is an opportunity to thank partner countries for their steadfast support to India in a fight against cross-border terrorism and to galvanize global understanding on tackling terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. So, Prime Minister Modi will pay an official visit to Cyprus on 15th and 16th. This will be the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Cyprus in over 2 decades. While in Cyprus capital Nicosia, Prime Minister will hold talks with President Christodoulidis and address business leaders in Limassol. The visit will reaffirm the shared commitment of the two countries to deepen bilateral ties and strengthen India's engagement with the Mediterranean region and the European Union. This visit will add momentum in key areas like trade and cultural linkages. In the second leg of his visit, the Prime Minister will travel to Kailash in Canada on June 16th and 17th to participate in the G7 summit. This would be Prime Minister's sixth consecutive participation in the G7 summit. At the summit, Prime Minister will exchange views with leaders of G7 countries, other invited outreach countries and heads of international organizations on crucial global issues including energy, security, technology and innovation, particularly the AI energy nexus and quantum-related issues. Prime Minister will also hold several bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit. In the final leg of his tour, PM Modi will undertake an official visit to Croatia on 18th June. This will be the first ever visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Croatia, marking an important milestone in the bilateral relationship. The visit presents a historical opportunity to boost linkages with a valued partner country. Prime Minister will hold bilateral discussions with Prime Minister Plenković and meet the President Zoran Milanović. The visit to Croatia will also underscore India's commitment to further strengthening its engagement with partners in the European Union. Let's go across to Cyprus. DD India Shubhendu Ghosh joins us live from there. Shubhendu, first time in 2 decades, Indian Prime Minister is visiting Cyprus. Tell us about the particular areas in focus and what all is expected.
That's right, Abhishek. Good morning from Cyprus, from Limassol. 2 decades later, an Indian Prime Minister is visiting Cyprus, hugely significant. The anticipation is very high. Also, remember, for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, after Operation Sindoor. This is the first foreign visit. So this visit is very high on both symbolism and real areas of engagement. If we talk about the areas of engagement in particular, we also take a cue from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's departure statement. There's a great focus on economic engagement between India and Cyprus. If you see the location of Cyprus, it's the middle of the continent. It's an island nation between the Mediterranean, in the Mediterranean, connecting Europe and the Middle East in many ways. It's seen as a gateway to these thriving regions. So in that sense, a closer partnership with Cyprus means India's increasing footprint, both in terms of economic engagement and strategic partnership. Particular areas of focus, we are told, is going to be innovation. There's a thriving startup culture that is also coming up in Cyprus. India is already home to the third largest startup ecosystem. In that sense, exchange of ideas, exchange of talents is something that is going to be promoted by both the leaders, Prime Minister of India and the President of Cyprus. Security is another aspect. As I mentioned, it's coming after Operation Sindoor. Both India and Cyprus have always been on the same page as far as the stand on counter-terrorism is concerned. Cyprus also has had a troubled history with its sort of neighbor in the region, Turkey, and the Cyprus question that has sort of dominated the country for nearly 50 years. India has always stood with Cyprus in such matters, and I've always said that these conflicts have to be solved in a peaceful way, in a democratic way, in a way which is akin to international laws. So in that sense, a lot of areas of engagement, technology, renewable energy is another area where these two nations could work together closely.
All right, you're saying Shubhendu, India has always stood with Cyprus. Tell us the historical relationship India shared with Cyprus. Why is this visit of Prime Minister Modi strategically important ahead of the G7 summit that will be held in Canada?
Abhishek, India and Cyprus have shared civilizational ties. From the dawn of humanity, there are these archaeological traces that have been found about hundreds and thousands of years ago, exchange of ideas and people between India and Cyprus. Come to the modern times, they've shared a similar history, similar colonial history under the British. They fought the colonial rule. In fact, India, after it gained independence, played a key role in Cyprus getting its independence in the 1960s, and ever since 1962, the diplomatic relations were established. They've always had very, very close and friendly ties. In a very sensitive time for India, in the aftermath of Pahalgam terror attack, Cyprus was one of the first countries to very vocally condemn the terrorist attack and condemn terrorism in all its forms. So India counts Cyprus as a very, very close ally in terms of ideas, in terms of the democracy and freedom that it sort of represents. And similarly, Cyprus also counts on India's support in dealing with its own disputes at home, which have been pending to be solved for a long time. But India has maintained its stand very clearly and stood with Cyprus in a very strong manner. And in the 21st century, a forward-looking partnership. Remember, it's an island nation, so climate change and these calamities have a particular impact on island nations. And India has made important strides in renewable energy, clean energy initiatives. So in that domain of engagement, these two countries are working very closely, particularly in solar and other renewable energy domains. So we see that from civilizational ties to forward-looking 21st century engagement, India and Cyprus have been very close.
Shubhendu, also another significance of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit, maybe Cyprus set to hold the rotating presidency of the EU Council in 2026. PM Modi's visit maybe paves the way for deeper India-EU collaboration during Cyprus' leadership term?
Oh, absolutely. I think besides the very close and special and important bilateral engagement between India and Cyprus, this visit has to be seen in the larger context of India's outreach and connect with both the what is called the West Asia, the Middle East, as well as Europe. You rightly mentioned that Cyprus is set to take over the presidency. It's a rotating presidency for a period of 6 months. It takes over this presidency of the Council of European Union in 2026. It will therefore be setting the agenda and having a close ally, a close friend, setting the agenda in a region where we seek to increase our footprint, where we seek to increase our engagement. Remember, India-EU FTA, free trade agreement negotiations are also on. it also paves the way, as and when it's done, to greater strategic partnership, technological partnership, people-to-people partnership between India and whole of Europe. So in that sense, Cyprus as a gateway, Cyprus as India's friend in the EU is hugely significant.
All right, Shubhendu, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us, thank you for your views from Cyprus. Now, Canada is set to host leaders from the world's largest economies for the annual G7 summit in Alberta from today. This year, under Canada's presidency, the two-day summit will focus on three core priorities: strengthening global security, accelerating the energy and digital transition, and forging future-oriented partnerships. The G7 summit is an international forum held annually for the leaders of the G7 member states of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom and the United States. The summit is also an opportunity for leaders to engage in discussions on key geopolitical matters, particularly those affecting global stability and security. And ahead of the G7 summit on Saturday, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen spoke with US President Donald Trump. Von der Leyen described the call as positive, with both leaders discussing the ongoing trade negotiations. She reiterated the EU's commitment to securing a favourable deal before the July 9 deadline. The conversation also covered the tense geopolitical situation in West Asia and the need for coordination on energy market impacts. All right, still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Authorities release an important information regarding handover of Air India plane crash victims' bodies. Kailash Mansarovar Yatra 2025 begins today. 750 pilgrims selected to begin their divine journey. And Delhi receives shower of relief from heat wave. IMD issues severe thunderstorm and strong wind alert.
Change is not always a choice. It is about rethinking the way we live, what we consume, and the everyday choices that we make.
Commercializing something in the form of tourism, it opens up channels of revenue for the local population, right? Your farmers are seeing a boost of people that are coming there. Your retailers, the people who have shops, are now seeing international tourists walk down and buy scents from them.
We have been working together to build a model of involving the youth and the children of the village in the restoration efforts in a way that they may find culturally relevant.
It needs big actions. It needs things like the deposit returns. It needs bans on certain single-use plastic items.
If we all join hands and embrace organic farming, only then can we ensure a healthier future for the next generation.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. A formal investigation has begun by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau into the deadly crash of Air India Flight 171 that killed 241 people on board. AAIB is the division of the Ministry of Civil Aviation tasked with probing aircraft accidents in India. The probe is being done in line with international protocols set by International Civil Aviation Organization. Teams from the National Security Guard, National Disaster Response Force, Indian Air Force and Central Industrial Security Force continue to work at the crash site to inspect the wreckage of the ill-fated flight. A key breakthrough in the probe came with the recovery of aircraft's black box from the debris on Friday. The black box is being examined to ascertain in-depth insight into what would have actually happened during the crash or moments before the crash itself, while search is still on for cockpit voice recorder. Besides, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation has ordered to conduct an extended surveillance into the Boeing 787 series aircraft model, which are currently present in the Indian aircraft fleet. 8 have already been inspected with immediate urgency. Meanwhile, a high-level multidisciplinary committee has also been constituted for examining the causes leading to the crash. The committee is examining the existing standard operating procedures and guidelines issued to prevent and handle such occurrences and suggest comprehensive guidelines for dealing with such instances in the future. The committee is not a substitute to other inquiries being conducted by relevant organizations, but will focus on formulating SOPs for preventing and handling such occurrences in the future. Meanwhile, as many of the bodies are burnt beyond recognition or damaged otherwise, authorities are carrying out DNA tests to establish the identity of the Air India plane crash victims. So far, DNA tests have confirmed identities of 19 victims. State Forensic Science Laboratory Unit Team and National Forensic Sciences University team are working through the night to match more DNA samples. BJ Medical College has assured the families of the victims that the civil hospital would contact the kin as soon as a DNA match was found and urged them to not rush to the hospital. Authorities have released an important information regarding handover of Air India plane crash victims' bodies. The government has made free ambulance arrangements to transport the deceased's body by road to their home. Relatives collecting the body must bring their own and the deceased identification documents. The civil hospital will prepare a complete file of legal documents, including the post-mortem report and death certificate, and hand it over to the relatives. Air India will provide assistance in transporting the body by air. The hospital must be contacted in advance to coordinate flight timings. All right, we'll go across to Ahmedabad. Air India's Meghna Dev joins us to talk more on this. Meghna, first of all, latest you can tell us on the investigation of the ill-fated plane crash.
Yes, when we actually see that a panel will be investigating this, and in 3 months they have been asked to submit the report. Obviously, the panel will be headed by the Home Secretary, as this information has been given by the Union Minister of Civil Aviation. Now, in-depth analysis will be done of the black box. What we also get to understand is that all the evidence will be taken into consideration. There will be talks with all stakeholders, different agencies. We also got to know that a few people who made the video of the aircraft taking off and then crashing, who were in the nearby areas, videos also have been taken from them for further investigation that would help the investigators to understand and see the situation better. So this is the current situation in terms of the investigation that is going on. Obviously, it can take weeks to months to actually understand and ascertain the actual cause, because we know that the black box had been recovered day before yesterday from the rooftop. Now, after that, all the investigation will take place, obviously pertaining to the international parameters and the procedures that have been set. Now, Abhishek, having said that, very importantly, we get to know that 19 victims have been identified by DNA samples. About 11 mortal remains have been handed over to families. Now, also the families who of the victims are coming to the BJ Medical College, the civil hospital premises, and they all the families have got official police personnel as well as a counselor to help them navigate through the process of be it the documentation process, DNA sampling process, and also the further process wherein they can get the mortal remains. Few of the mortal remains have been transported, escorted by police vehicles, transported to their respective homes. We also understand 11 the authorities have contacted 11 families of the people who have lost their lives, who are British citizens, and there is coordination being done with the British government in terms of who the British citizens who have lost their life in this fatal crash. Now, DNA sampling is something that is very crucial at the moment. While the authorities tell us that most of the bodies will be handed over by today or tomorrow, but having said that, just because the bodies are extremely charred, it makes it extremely difficult for the FSL authorities, the National Forensic Science University team, and the other people who are assisting with the DNA sampling to identify the DNA profile and then go ahead with the matching. So all of this is also being augmented, and besides that, we also get to know that new postmortem room has been opened at the BJ Medical College, because at the civil hospital, because the existing facility could not handle these many dead bodies at the same time. So this is what the facility has opened. Besides that, death certificate, succession certificate, all the documentation process, the district administration has been clearly instructed to expedite and fast track the the procedure, so that the relatives who are already in a state of shock and are going through a really tough time do not have to wait for a longer period for these documentation processes.
All right, Meghna, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest from Ahmedabad. In another unfortunate crash in India's northern state of Uttarakhand, a helicopter went down in the early hours of Sunday near Gaurikund, resulting in the deaths of all the 7 passengers, including the pilot and a child. NDRF and SDRF teams are present at the accident site as 2 sets of remains have been recovered. In view of the recent accident, Uttarakhand Civil Aviation Development Authority and Directorate General of Civil Aviation have imposed a ban on the helicopter services in Char Dham until further orders. Earlier, the helicopter made a hard landing at an alternate location due to unfavorable weather conditions en route, resulting in damage to the aircraft. And Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami expressed sadness over the helicopter crash in Rudraprayag district and assured that rescue teams, including the SDRF and local administration, are actively engaged in relief and rescue operations. Uttarakhand CM has directed the implementation of strict standard operating procedures for helicopter services in the state. As per the SOP, thorough inspection of helicopters' technical condition before operation and accurate weather forecasting before flights to be done. A high-level committee will probe past and recent helicopter accidents, identifying causes, guilty parties and recommending strict action. Now, ISRO successfully conducted a rocket launching test in Kushinagar, marking the first time a payload was launched via a rocket from soil of Uttar Pradesh. ISRO scientist Abhishek Singh said that unlike previous tests in Ahmedabad using drones, this was the first time a satellite was directly launched by a rocket in UP, proving entirely successful. The test, in collaboration with Thrust Tech India Limited, saw the rocket ascend 1.1 kilometer, a complete success. This test was a prelude to a larger event in October-November, where around 900 youth-built satellites will be tested. Now, the Government of India gifted 40 ambulances to health institutions across Nepal on Saturday, aiming to cover 33 districts across all 7 provinces. The ambulances were distributed in Kathmandu, Birgunj, Pokhara and Dharan. The ceremony in Kathmandu was attended by Prasanna Srivastav, Deputy Chief of Mission at the Embassy of India, who emphasized that this initiative has been a key part of India's long-standing support for Nepal's health sector. He also highlighted the broader and vibrant development partnership between the 2 nations over the past 7 decades. The gifting of ambulances is part of India's continued commitment to strengthening Nepal's infrastructure. Since 1994, India has gifted 1,049 ambulances to Nepal, along with other logistical support, including school buses and vehicles for law enforcement and elections. Kailash Mansarovar Yatra 2025 begins today and will go on till August 2025. A total of 750 pilgrims have been selected for Yatra this year, including 2 liaison officers per batch. LOs play a crucial role in facilitating the Yatra, ensuring the well-being and safety of the pilgrims. The pilgrims will travel in 5 batches of 50 each via the Lipu Lake route and 10 batches of 50 each via the Nathula route. Both routes are now fully motorable and involve very little trekking. The government has taken extensive steps to make the Yatra more accessible and the process more transparent, while ensuring the safety and well-being of the pilgrims. Pilgrims are urged to undertake the pilgrimage with a sense of responsibility, humility and mindfulness, while caring for each other as well as protecting the sanctity of the environment. Some weather-related updates now. Delhi NCR residents woke up to heavy rain, thunderstorms and strong winds this morning. The downpour brought much-needed relief from the prolonged heat wave across Delhi and neighbouring areas, including Noida. The India Met Department, in an advisory, asked the residents to stay indoors and avoid travel. It has said that moderate to intense spell of rainfall with thunderstorms and lightning, squally winds 80 to 100 km per hour is going on over Delhi and NCR. Stay indoors and avoid travel unless necessary. Delhi and the adjoining regions have been experiencing extreme heat wave conditions for the last few days. After 4 consecutive days of heat wave conditions in parts of the national capital, Delhi on Friday witnessed a slight dip in temperatures. Time now for another short break. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. IAEA says no damage seen at Iran's Fordow or Kondab near nuclear sites. Also says Natanz nuclear site remains intact. Vladimir Putin speaks to Donald Trump, condemns Israel strikes on Iran. And French President Emmanuel Macron will visit Greenland today to stop US spraying on it.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarks on a 3-nation visit to Cyprus, Canada and Croatia today to attend G7 summit in Canada's Kananaskis in his 6th consecutive participation. Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau probes the Ahmedabad plane crash incident. Black box is being examined while search on for cockpit voice recorder. DNA tests confirm identities of 19 victims. Another night of Israel-Iran exchange of missiles. Tehran's Shahran oil depot and Tel Aviv's Haifa oil refinery targeted in attacks. US-Iran nuclear talks set for today in Oman cancelled. Manhunt underway in Minnesota after a senior Democrat lawmaker and a spouse were shot and killed. Second state lawmaker and his wife seriously wounded. President Trump condemns shooting as absolutely terrible. No Kings protesters take to the streets from Los Angeles to Boston. Nearly 2,000 demonstrations planned across the country, coinciding with Trump's huge military parade. And big news coming in from the United States with President Donald Trump saying that Washington had nothing to do with the attack on Iran tonight. He, however, warned that if the US is attacked in any way, shape or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the US armed forces will come down on them at levels never seen before. So big warning by Donald Trump to Iran, and Trump also asserted that US can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel and end this conflict. So big warning by Donald Trump to Iran that Iran would face US might at levels never seen before if it attacks US, and US is also went on to say that US can easily get the deal done between Iran and Israel to end the conflict. Meanwhile, the exchange of strikes have been going on between Iran and Israel. Iran launches missiles at targets across Israel, and the attacks came after Israeli forces also bombed civilian and energy infrastructure across Iran. And these strikes have stoked fears of wider conflict that can plunge whole world into era of chaos. Israel pounded Iran for a second day, a day after it wiped out the top echelon of Iran's military command, saying its campaign would intensify. In its latest strikes, Israel hit Shahran oil depot in Tehran on Sunday. Though fire had erupted after the attack, Iran said the situation was under control. The Israeli Defense Forces completed an extensive series of strikes on targets in Tehran related to the Iran's nuclear weapons project. An IRGC facility in Tehran also showed visible damage in a satellite image taken on June 14, and an unspecified facility in Piranshahar appeared mostly destroyed. The Israeli army spokesperson said plans to strike targets in the Iranian capital were years in the making. He also said that Israel has attacked 150 targets across Iran, including 40 in Tehran. Fears about potential disruption to the region's oil exports had already driven up oil prices 9% on Friday, and Tehran was reviewing whether to close the Strait of Hormuz, controlling access to the Gulf for tankers. Meanwhile, no damage was seen at Iran's Fordo fuel enrichment plant or the Khondab heavy water reactor under construction. The International Atomic Energy Agency added that no further damage had been observed at the Natanz, the site of one of the nuclear targets struck on Friday by Israeli forces. Earlier, the IAEA said that Iran's Nuclear Regulatory Authority had informed it of no change in off-site radiation levels in Isfahan, another nuclear site targeted by Israel in an air offensive against its old enemy. The IAEA also said that 4 critical buildings at the Isfahan nuclear site had been damaged, including a uranium conversion facility and a fuel plate fabrication plant. And Iran also fired a fresh barrage of missiles at Israel after Iranian state TV reported that a new wave of Operation Honest Promise 3 began while broadcasting live images of Israel. Iran launched UAVs at Israel. Many of those were intercepted. Israelis were running for shelter as sirens sound in dozens of cities and communities around the country as air raid sirens and booms rang out in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Israel's ambulance service said a woman in her 20s was killed and 13 other people injured when a missile struck a 2-story house in northern Israel. And several projectiles were visible in the night sky over Jerusalem. Iran's Revolutionary Guards said Iranian missiles and drones targeted Israel's energy infrastructure and facilities for fighter jet fuel production. The elite force warned Tehran's attacks will be heavier and more extensive if Israel continues its hostilities. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened his security cabinet after Israel expanded its surprise campaign against Iran. He said that attacks were nothing compared with what Iran would see in the coming days. Now, diplomacy has also taken backseat as Tehran called off nuclear talks that Washington had said were the only way to halt Israel's bombing. A round of US-Iran nuclear talks that was due to be held in Oman on Sunday was cancelled, with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi saying that discussions could not take place while Iran was being subjected to Israel's barbarous attacks. And fears about potential disruption to the region's oil exports had already driven up oil prices 9% on Friday. Tehran was also reviewing whether to close the Strait of Hormuz, controlling access to the Gulf for tankers. Tehran has warned Israel's allies that their military bases in the region would come under fire too if they helped shoot down Iranian missiles. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer spoke to Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and discussed the West Asia situation. The leaders agreed on the need to de-escalate. And British Foreign Minister David Lammy spoke to his Israeli counterpart Gideon Saar on Saturday and expressed concern for civilians in Israel. And US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth insisted on vigilance while offering Iran a path to peace in an interview with Fox News channels Fox and Friends Weekend on Saturday.
Not some sort of a perspective we're worried or concerned, we're vigilant, we're prepared in a strong defensive posture, while the president continues to say to Iran, hey, you have an option for peace. It includes, various aspects of what's been discussed. Iran knows. They know they can come back. They're making their own decisions right now, and we hope they would choose a negotiated option. The U.S. is postured to defend our people in the region. We've got significant assets in the region. We are robustly postured to ensure that our people, our bases, our interests are safe, and we're continuing to monitor any forces we would need to do that, capabilities we would need to do that. We will keep Americans safe.
All right, moving on to our next story now. U.S. President Donald Trump said Saturday that he and Russian President Vladimir Putin had agreed during a phone call that the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran should end. The two leaders spoke about the rapidly developing conflict in the West Asia. Trump's comments marked the first time he has explicitly called for an end to hostilities between Washington's ally Israel and its rival Iran. The Kremlin separately also confirmed the Trump-Putin call and said they discussed the conflict in Ukraine and the situation in the West Asia. Trump had promised to end the world's hottest conflicts during his election campaign, but nearly 5 months into his second term. Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan also spoke to U.S. President in a phone call on Saturday, saying that Turkey sees nuclear negotiations as the only way to resolve the conflict between Israel and Iran. According to a statement by his office, Erdogan told Trump that Turkey supports the U.S. view that nuclear negotiations should continue to resolve the dispute, and Ankara is ready to do its part to prevent an uncontrolled escalation. And the Grims was also a display of a tragedy struck on Saturday in Minnesota after former State Speaker Melissa Hotman and her husband were shot dead in what police described as a targeted attack. Another state lawmaker and his wife were injured in the same incident. The killings sent shockwaves across the country, especially as they occurred on the same day as President Donald Trump's high-profile military parade in Washington, which had already drawn criticism and widespread protest. A major search backed by the FBI was underway. The suspect, identified as 57-year-old Vance Luther Boilta, also allegedly shot and wounded the second lawmaker and his spouse. And U.S. President Donald Trump hosted the largest U.S. military parade in decades, coinciding with his 79th birthday on Saturday. Trump hailed the United States as the hottest country in the world. The U.S. Army brought nearly 7,000 troops into Washington, along with 150 vehicles, including more than 25 M1 Abrams tanks, 28 Stryker armored vehicles, 4 Paladin self-propelled artillery vehicles, and artillery pieces, including the M777 and M119. The Army said it cost up to $45 million. The parade traced the history of the Army from its founding during the Revolutionary War through modern day. The last such parade in the United States was at the end of 1991 Gulf War. The display of military might comes as Trump asserts his power domestically and on the international stage. In his address to the parade, Trump sent a warning to Washington's adversaries of total and complete defeat.
The heart of sinister empires, crush the ambitions of evil tyrants. Beneath the threads of American tanks, it's done so well, it's done so much, and sent the devil himself flying into full retreat. Time and again, America's enemies have learned that if you threaten the American people, our soldiers are coming for you. Your defeat will be certain, your demise will be final, and your downfall will be total and complete.
Trump's parade on an overcast night in Washington came after hundreds of thousands of No Kings demonstrators thronged the streets in cities including New York, Philadelphia, Houston and Atlanta. Police in Los Angeles used tear gas and mounted officers to clear protesters who had gathered in front of the federal building in downtown. All of it followed a week of tension in Los Angeles, where protests over federal immigration raids resulted in Trump calling in National Guard troops and U.S. Marines to help keep the peace following clashes sparked by immigration raids. Violence shattered the calm elsewhere too, with a shooting at a demonstration in the western U.S. city of Salt Lake City, leaving at least one person critically injured. Organizers said they were protesting against Trump's dictatorial overreach and in particular what it prescribed as the strongman symbolism of the parade. Shifting focus, French President Emmanuel Macron is set to visit Greenland on Sunday, demonstrating support for Denmark and signaling European unity following US President Donald Trump's threat to acquire the island. Trump has repeatedly said the US needs the strategically located, resource-rich Arctic island for security reasons and has refused to rule out the use of force to secure it. Greenland is a self-governing part of the Kingdom of Denmark with the right to declare independence. Both the Greenland and Danish governments said it is not for sale and only Greenlanders can determine their future. Macron, the first foreign leader to visit Greenland since President Trump expressed interest in acquiring the island, he was invited by the Prime Ministers of both Greenland and Denmark. He has said his visit is meant to prevent any preying on the territory. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. A massive fire broke out in a 67-story residential skyscraper in Dubai Marina, prompting a large-scale emergency response and the safe evacuation of more than 3,800 residents. Authorities confirmed that there were no injuries or casualties in the blaze. The British royal family, including King Charles, attended the annual Trooping the Colour Parade in London on Saturday to mark the monarch's official birthday. The event, featuring over 1,400 soldiers, 200 horses and 400 musicians, was held with a somber tone as the royals paid respects to the victims of the recent Air India plane crash. Brazilian designer Elisa Meghani unveiled her latest collection in a stunning fashion show at Christ the Redeemer on Brazilian Valentine's Day. The breathtaking view of Rio de Janeiro added a touch of magic to the event, with models showcasing the designs against the iconic backdrop. All right, still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Yoga enthusiasts are organizing various events in India and abroad in the run-up to the International Day of Yoga on June 21st. Indian athletes win gold medal in the 10-meter air rifle mixed team event at the Shooting World Cup. And music, dance and color take over La Paz streets as Bolivians celebrate Gran Poder Festival.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Yoga enthusiasts are organizing various events in India and abroad in the run-up to the International Day of Yoga on June 21st. Ladakh Union Territory Administration begins to celebrate a week-long yoga festival titled Ladakh's biggest international festival of yoga and meditation from today until June 21st at multiple locations in the region. 7 picturesque and serene locations of Ladakh, including Pangong Lake, Shanti Stupa, bank of Indus River at Sindhu Ghat and Nubra Valley, have been chosen for the week-long yoga sessions. The festival is being held on the 3 lines of signature events such as Harit Yoga, Samavesh Yoga and Yoga Unplugged, and the themes have been chosen from the themes given by the Ayush Ministry. A seminar on the theme of Unplugged Yoga is also planned in collaboration with the University of Ladakh. While in Uttarakhand's Dehradun, Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami today attended the Run for Yoga program as a chief guest. In view of the upcoming International Day of Yoga, Dhami has already instructed authorities to undertake a comprehensive awareness campaign in all districts and said yoga camps should be organized on a large scale. In May this year, Uttarakhand Cabinet approved Yoga Policy 2025 aimed at making the state global capital of yoga and wellness. The policy sets a target of establishing at least 5 new yoga hubs by 2030. And in a spirited prelude to International Yoga Day, Haryana Chief Minister Nayab Singh Saini flagged off the Run for Yoga marathon in Kurukshetra, aimed at promoting fitness, holistic health and the importance of yoga in daily life. The marathon witnessed enthusiastic participation from athletes, yoga practitioners and many others. Participants ran with a beacon of promoting physical well-being, mental peace and the ancient Indian tradition of yoga. The 11th International Yoga Day will be celebrated on June 21st. Inspired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, this global initiative saw the inauguration of a week-long yoga camp in Varanasi on Sunday morning. Held at the renowned Namo Ghat, the camp witnessed the participation of hundreds who performed various yoga asanas. The collective energy and discipline witnessed during the event underscored that Varanasi is not only a spiritual city but has also become alert and conscious about health. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with shooting. Indian athletes Arjun Babuta and Arya Borse won the gold medal in the 10-meter air rifle mixed team event at the Shooting World Cup in Germany as India finished its campaign with 4 medals. Indian pair defeated China's Wang Zifei and Sheng Lihao in the final in Munich with 2 gold and 2 bronze medals. India finished third on ISSF World Cup medals table behind China and Norway. The next leg of the World Cup will be held in China in September this year. India's Pranati Nayak clinched the bronze medal in the women's vault event at the Asian Artistic Gymnastics Championships in South Korea. The 30-year-old Indian gymnast scored 13.4 points to finish third in Jicheon City. This was her third bronze medal at the championships after landing on the podium in 2019 and 2022. The win also makes her the most decorated Indian gymnast in the continental meet in terms of medal count, going past Olympian Deepa Karmakar. Tennis now. German top seed Alexander Zverev will clash with Taylor Fritz in the Stuttgart Open final in Germany on Sunday. Zverev took out American third seed Ben Shelton with a 7-6, 7-6 victory in the semi-final to set up the summit showdown with Fritz. In the first semi-final, Fritz knocked out fourth seed Felix Auger-Aliassime 6-4, 7-6. Fritz is eyeing a fourth grass court title as he looks to continue to build momentum towards Wimbledon, where the 27-year-old is a twice quarter-finalist. Both have played 12 matches between them. Fritz holds a better record against Zverev. He has won 7 matches while lost 5 against Zverev. German qualifier Tatjana Maria has set up the summit clash with Amanda Anisimova at the Queen's Club Championships in London on Sunday. Maria produced a stunning 6-3, 7-6 win over Australian Open champion Madison Keys in the semi-finals. 37-year-old Maria, who reached the Wimbledon semi-finals in 2022, has enjoyed a memorable run at the tournament. She can complete her fairy tale week against American world number 15 Anisimova, who clinched a surprise 6-2, 4-6, 6-4 win against Chinese top seed Zheng Qinwen in the second semi-finals. Maria has never been past the second round of any Grand Slam except Wimbledon, but once again she is proving to be a formidable force on grass. Anisimova won the Qatar Open this February and is one victory away from a second WTA title. Lionel Messi and Inter Miami were held to a goalless draw by Egyptian side Al Ahly as the Club World Cup got off to a smooth start in Florida. Messi was denied a stoppage time winner when he saw his curling shot from 20 yards tipped onto the bar by goalkeeper Mohamed El Shenawi. Al Ahly were left to rue a first half penalty from Egypt international Trezeguet, which was saved by Argentine keeper Oscar Ustari. Inter Miami next face FC Porto on Thursday in Atlanta, while Al Ahly will take on Palmeiras in New York. The tournament, consisting of 32 teams, continues on Sunday with Champions League winners Paris Saint-Germain taking on Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich playing Auckland City. And tens of thousands of dancers, musicians and performers gathered in La Paz, Bolivia for the traditional Gran Poder Festival, a UNESCO-recognized celebration of Aymara culture and Catholic indigenous traditions. The parade is a folkloric celebration known as the Lord of Great Power and fuses Catholic and indigenous beliefs that brings together tens of thousands of dancers dressed in traditional clothes, musicians and performers. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.